grabbing your beer and grabbing a coke. We about to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brandon T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Taz if it's your ex drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. Quick rundown of the show if you are new to the show. I am sober now, but one of my favorite things to do when I was out drinking, doing drugs, partying, and getting in trouble was to hang out with friends, reminisce about party stories, any kind of crazy, fun, tall tales we could tell, and just be an overall good drinking buddy. Again, I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do. So every week, I will be joined by a guest. Today, I have the honor, nay, the privilege of being joined by the president of the After Disaster podcast, Emmy Award winner, Mr. Tyler White.
That's me. What an intro.
Yeah. You are the president. All hail the chief.
Thank you. I assume that that music will be playing underneath this part of the show.
Joe Dorville's actually the intro to the show, but maybe we'll make something
Come
up.
on, sprinkle some extra sauce on there for me, Joe.
So, Tyler, tell everyone who's listening, tell everything what you want to plug, tell them all about what you got going on, anything like that you want to push.
Oh, sure. So I do a podcast that some people think is worth paying $5 a month for. Some people don't think so.
And they've been very vocal about that.
They've been very vocal. You know me, or like you, Brennan, you know me from a podcast called The After Disaster, which we've been doing for almost 11 years. That's upsetting.
Suck on that, everyone else who has a podcast now.
Yeah, 11 years. Not even 10, 11.
I've been there from the beginning. Fluffernutter, what's up?
From the beginning. That I'm not sure you should admit that, but, you know. Whatever.
I used to call in.
I can't promote a show that is now behind a paywall. Like, it's pointless. It's pointless.
You can. Everyone go check it out. The After Disaster.
No, don't go check it out. Just
check it. No, you should check it out.
Don't check it out. There's
you have
a few
lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, it's impossible. It's 11 years of inside jokes with three guys
it's
who are
all
like,
inside jokes.
Sometimes funny. Like, that's it. That's the show. So don't worry about it. I don't really want to promote it. You can follow me on Twitter, Tyler Ruins TV. Get my hot takes, my stupid jokes, and then I'll just hit you with some political shit that I barely really know anything about. But I'll act like I do. And then you can check out my digital handiwork on The Late Late Show with James Corden. That's where I peddle my wares doing social media.
That's where you're winning Emmys,
the
baby.
team is growing, so I can't claim ownership for all content there anymore. But if it's good content, I'll take credit for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because didn't you used to run the whole thing, didn't you?
I still do, but now I have actually people like contributing some of the stuff that gets posted, as opposed to I used to do every single platform, every single post, every single piece of content was all from me. Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
but hey, got you some hardware, man.
And it's better than working in a salt mine or on a fracking ship. Or, is that how fracking works? Is there a ship involved?
There's a ship. Yeah, you're out in the middle of sea.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's it. I don't know what else to promote. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see pictures of my 1989 Isuzu Amigo. Tyler Ruins Film is like my dabbling with film, and Tyler Ruins Radio. It's a mess. Don't bother with me online. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's just get into the good stuff.
All right. So the Tyler Ruins Radio handle that came from when you first started out on Loveline. Is that correct?
That's correct. I was looking for a Twitter handle because I started working on Loveline in 2009, and that's right around when Twitter launched. And I literally just refused to join until I had a good name, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to just be Tyler White, even though retrospectively I probably should have. And one night on the show, I did something stupid, and Mike Catherwood was like, "That's what he does. That's what Tyler does. Tyler Ruins Radio." And I was like, "Now I've got a Twitter handle." But then I ended up starting working TV, so Tyler Ruins Radio didn't really make any sense anymore. So on Twitter, I switched over to Tyler Ruins TV, and on Instagram, I was lazy, and it's still Tyler Ruins Radio. So there you go.
How old were you when you started working at Loveline? Like, how did that? Because I've grown up in Florida, and I've never really been.
Oh, that's too bad.
I've never really been around. Like Loveline is was a nationally syndicated show. It's like a pretty big deal, and you're an LA kid. You're from California, so was that like how did that all work? Did you just drop out of school and go do that? Because I know you quit playing baseball in college and everything like that. Biggest regret.
Biggest regret. It is my biggest regret. We don't. Have to
I listen.
So yeah, I was I quit baseball because I needed money and I was sick of the team. And I started cleaning pools for my
I forgot about
my high school baseball coach. He owned a pool company and he had hired a couple of my friends, and it was still the best job I've ever had. I was making $800 a month, working 2 days a week, and on a good week, I was working maybe if I kept my pools clean, like monitor the chemicals and stuff. Could be like you could have a 4-hour day. You could work 8 hours, make 8 hours a week, make $800 a month. I had no expenses. I lived at home. It was just my car and my gas, and I might as well have been a millionaire because it felt
you were
like
cleaning up. Yeah,
it was 90% of my money was fun money, so it was just it was a joke. But after like a couple years of that, I was like, okay, I have to like obviously do something else. And
isn't that the worst realization?
It is it's a terrible. Although, like, ironically, like, I mean, I could have just become a pool man, but
yeah, you could have. I mean, I'm still waiting tables.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of days where I'm sitting in my office or at my dining room table, as it may be during pandemic, and just staring out the window, and go like, I mean, I could just start cleaning pools again. Like, I know how to do it.
Dude,
like,
and you've got the Amigo now.
I got
Put the top down, throw the chemicals.
Yeah, but I can't ruin the. I ruined an Isuzu Trooper with using that as my pool car. I couldn't do that to the Amigo.
No,
it'd be a bummer.
You love that Amigo.
I love it so much. It's the best. It's right out there. You can't see it through the window. But yeah, I was cleaning pools and I was so tan. Oh, so
did your hair lighten up at all? I know a lot of
not really
people who lifeguard. They get
unfortunately no. I didn't really get any streaks. I got pretty dark hair. And I was listening to the iPod all the time. This is back when you actually had a separate iPod from your phone. Yeah. God, how old does that sound?
I remember.
And I got sick of all the music on there, so I started I think I stole my dad's my dad was a wallpaper hanger, so he had all the working equipment, including working like a Discman or a Walkman, Sony Walkman thing. So I used that as a radio, and I just started listening to talk radio, and I was like, oh, I want to get into radio. Like, this is fun. I could do this. I could shoot the shit with the boys.
Yeah.
And I went online one night. I Googled all the radio stations in Los Angeles. The only one that was hiring was KROCK, which I didn't even really listen to KROCK at the time. But they were hiring, so I shot them off an email. I got a job offer a month later, and did that for a year, just answering the phones, running the request lines, doing the.
And that was for Loveline or just for KROCK
just
in
for
general?
KROCK, okay. giving away concert tickets and all that kind of shit. Driving so far to make fucking $6 an hour.
Oh man,
it was the worst.
KROCK is like a huge station in LA, isn't it?
Huge station. It was. I mean, it was the number one rock station. It was like the number 2 rock station in the country.
Oh wow.
It had a pedigree in the 90s of being a station that was breaking bands. I believe they broke Sublime and Blink-182 and Linkin Park, a
Holy
bunch of
shit.
these groups. They are the ones that put them on the map. And then but that's back when they were still an independent station. And then they got bought by CBS and became corporate, and all the things that happen when you go corporate happened.
Okay, so then it just kind of became, because I don't know if you guys are the ones who make the joke, but it's just Red Hot Chili Peppers all the time, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's not that, but it basically is that.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
And one perk of the job was they're opportunities to move up are you could become a screener for Loveline. I was like, oh, that would be cool. I started listening to Loveline when I was 12 years old, when I would, I'm not supposed to be hearing people talk about having sex.
Yeah.
But I'd have my I had this little radio next to my bed, and I would turn it up to 1,
just barely, just so you could hear it.
And I didn't even understand what anyone was talking about. But it was cool to listen to. Fast forward to pre-KROCK days, I'd be driving home from a date with Lauren or whatever, and I'd be listening to Loveline late at night, hearing Anderson and all these people. And then fast forward to working at KROCK, and then getting the chance to work there. And basically, after a year, I got brought on as a 1 night a week dude, and within 2 weeks, the other 2 dudes quit. They got full-time jobs, and they're like, can you just screen every night? I was like, absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Because it was the first time, if you call a radio station and someone answers and they take your request, they're just putting your thing into a computer and it's just going into a system somewhere. It doesn't, like, it's not real unless you talk to the DJ. But even then, all the playlists are pretty much, they're set in stone. There's not really any requests happening.
Okay.
So there's no like creative real input that I had. So Loveline was the first chance I had to, it was the first chance I had where I could influence what happened on the show because I was the person in charge of deciding if you got to
were
be
taking
on
the calls. Yeah.
6 lines. Loveline, what's your question? They'd say their stuff. All right, cool. Let me see. I'll put you on hold. Let's see if we can take your call right now. And most of the time it was just fishing for like salacious calls, just nonstop calls of people who had like actual like medical issues and I have to be like, sorry, we're not taking drug addiction calls right now. I'm looking for someone who has a dildo stuck up their butt. Yeah, it was. I had a lot of.
I'm sorry you're going through this really tough time, but Dr. Drew's busy.
Yeah, pretty much. Like we got ratings to worry about here, people.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I had a lot of trepidation about the job initially because, like, I mean, I was a virgin when I took the job.
Yeah.
And so I thought I was gonna have like all this like sex stuff. No, I just needed to.
You're just
be
screening
able to,
the call. Yeah.
I need to be able to type into
good?
a computer and like what would I want to listen to if I was driving home listening to the radio.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I did that for a couple years. Then
was that crazy when those 2 guys quit and you got moved into the position? Because Loveline is an institution, not only in California but across the country.
It was. Yeah, I mean, at the time we were probably on 100 different stations at least, and yeah, the first. So I'd only done it, I think, 2 or 3 times, and then both Adam and Corey left for new jobs, and they were just like, "Can you just do every night?" I was like, "Absolutely," and I was determined to hold on to it extremely tightly and not let anyone else did it. So I did it for a year and a half. I did 5 nights a week. I was the only screener, and typically they always had 2 or 3 rotating through, and I just was like, "No, I got this shit."
Yeah, get the fuck back.
It paid more. It paid $10 an hour, which, like, I mean, it was almost double what I was making doing the other screening, which was glorious. So that was, a little added bonus. But and then there was the opportunity to like actually move up and become like assistant producer, which I was in line for. But we won't get into the story of why I ended up getting fired from the screening calls. But then I was brought back a year later and became the digital guy on the show, which is how I parlayed into...
I did, yeah, you did tell that story. I do know that one.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that one. But, yeah, so then they took a chance on me to run... This is the early days of Facebook and Instagram and Twitter when no one knew what they were doing, and they're just like, make the young guy do it. And I was like, sure, I'll figure it out.
And how old were you at the time when all this is happening?
This was 2009 or 2010, so
okay.
I don't know. I was born in 86. Someone can do the math.
Yeah.
Early 20s. And parlayed that into worked at NBC doing primetime TV, social media for 4 years, and then turned that into Late Show. So that's the stepping stones of all that.
And when did you guys started doing the After Disaster in 2010?
August 2010. Yeah, it was just like because we were streaming online and doing. It was just extra website filling stuff, and somehow we caught on. I mean, like that's the thing is people wonder how we have any listeners for our podcast. It's like, well, we had training wheels. We had an installed audience on our stupid.
Yeah, it's like coming on after Seinfeld or something.
Exactly.
Like
we had a
built-in.
We had a built-in traction. So I mean, it still required us to be like somewhat entertaining, but. We could have been somewhat entertaining just screaming to the void and never had more than 5 listeners if we had just been like launching, independently. But instead we were 3 guys with access to a multi-million-dollar radio and recording studio having run of the place in the middle of the night. Insane.
So what was that? How did that first happen? Because I remember it's been a while since I've gone back and listened to, episode 0 all the way up, especially because I'm on some of those and I hate calling in wasted, and I never know which ones they are, and then sometimes it just pops up. Like Scott the other day when we were on the Twitch pulled up one of them, and it's me, and I was like, that's not me. He's like, that's you.
That's
I was like, oh my God. But how did it happen? So you're screening at Loveline. That's how you obviously know Anderson, who's producing.
Speaking of screening at Loveline, I'll just interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
You asked what it was like that first month when I took full reins of it. I would get home every night at about 1:30 because the show wrapped at midnight. We'd screw around until 12:30. It would take an hour to get home, so it was like 1:30 I'd get home. I would not fall asleep until, I don't know, 3 because I'd be so wired from adrenaline. Because what people don't understand is, at least at Loveline, there were 6 lines. A nationally syndicated show that people are calling in nonstop trying to talk to.
And there's only 6 lines. So
there's only 6 lines. So if they take a call and then they're done with that call and then 3 people drop off, all of a sudden I've only got 2 calls on the screen. And if they don't like them, they're kind of just filling time waiting for me to pop something new on the screen.
Oh, wow. So you're going.
So I was just wired with adrenaline because you're just like, it's go time. It is live radio. It is. I mean, that's the fun of it. It was so exciting.
Yeah.
And then when I would finally fall asleep, then I'd have nightmares that all 6 calls would drop off. And
Yep.
that Stryker and Dr. Drew or Dr. Drew and Mike would just be staring through the glass at me like, are you going to put some fucking calls up on the screen?
Yeah.
Which
God, those anxiety dreams.
Those anxiety dreams are wild.
I get it all the time. Like, oh, you just got this table, and this table. I'm like, I can't.
It's funny how your brain will just tailor it to like, it'll just what's the worst possible scenario for whatever your job is.
And then when you get stuck in that position while you're actually at work, you're like, this is my nightmare. This is my nightmare. Right
it's
here.
happening. Yeah. And then fast forward like 6 months later, Anderson would be playing the button he'd press the button that starts the intro to Loveline, and there would be no calls screened yet because I'd just saunter and I'd be like, I know that Mike and Drew are gonna bullshit for like 10 minutes. I got
you're
plenty
just like,
of time to toss some
it.
shit up. Yeah, no, not a worry in the world. Where if I saw myself doing that 6 months earlier when I first started, I would have been like, this guy is a fucking lunatic.
This guy's a psycho.
Every now and then when I would visit Loveline, when I would come back after I had left for my other job, but I was still coming to the studio to do the After Disaster, I would sometimes ask Chris, I'd be like, let me just screen calls for a little bit. And I would just hop in there and do it for a little bit.
Oh, really?
I've still got everything. It is all stuck inside my head. It would be like, hi, this is Loveline. What's your question? You ask your question. Okay, hold on. Put you on hold. And I would decide, okay, yeah, let's put them on. Yeah, okay, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Okay, how do you spell that? Okay, great. All right, I'm going to put you on hold when the guys get to you. Get right into your question. And no cussing, okay? All right, cool. Thank you. Put them on hold.
Damn, you still got it, man. Still got it.
Still got it.
So when did you...
Oh, I forgot turn your radio down. That's the other thing.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's
that you
the
don't
other
get
thing.
that stupid
mistake I've made before.
echo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rookie mistake.
The feedback. Rookie mistake.
Terrible.
When did you and Anderson... And it's bizarre to me how it all ended up working out because now you guys are an institution. You've been around for over a decade.
Institution. Sorry, it was mid wine sip right there.
I just said it earlier about Loveline, so I wanted to squeeze it in about the After Disaster. But how did that work? Because I know Anderson talks about it all the time. He wanted to do a show with Mike and just kind of hang out with Mike and yada, yada, yada. But how did you find your way there? Were you just trying to like, hey, I'll help out with the boards and stuff? Because I remember in the beginning, you just kind of sat back and played drops.
Yeah, so it was Anderson and I had tried to do a show called Terribly Awesome News, which was a play on our names, Tyler and Anderson. We're calling it TNA.
Yeah. Got it.
Where we were just going to like talk about news stories, but it's like literally every podcast ever. And then basically what happened, the Cliff Notes version is that Mike, our other host, and Anderson were doing their film podcast, and inadvertently,
because this is when
they were doing it in the studio, and inadvertently something happened where their broadcast that they were just recording to a computer went
live,
nationally. It interrupted Billy Bush's radio show, which is another show I also did digital media on. Strange. Interrupted, basically took him off the air and put their stupid show talking about movies.
This is when they were doing the Film Vault when Brian was out for his chemo, right?
Yeah. So Anderson's co-host Brian was out with cancer treatment, and so Mike was filling in. They were talking about movies. Somehow KFC came up. So they were like on national radio, basically hijacked a bunch of stations, cussing and yelling about KFC and the Colonel. And somehow they got called in and reprimanded, and somehow because Anderson is a weird negotiating mastermind, he turned that into, well, I think it's obvious that Mike and I definitely have like a cool point of view, and what if we turned this into like something that happens like after Loveline?
Oh, that's the meeting he always references.
Yeah. So the meeting where they got reprimanded, which the only reason he didn't get fired is because Max, who's like a very high up person at Westwood One, the company that syndicated Loveline, him and Anderson started in radio together, and Anderson stayed an engineer, and Max went from a call screener up to a very high up VP at a nationally, a multi-million-dollar radio broadcasting company. So of course he would always look out for his boy.
Yeah, definitely.
And he was the first boss. Max was the first boss I ever smoked weed with.
Oh, really?
I was at a birthday party for him at his house.
Yeah, dude.
We were all standing around. He's like, Petey. They called me Petey. It's a long story. Don't need to get into it. He's like, Petey, trying to hit this J. And I was like, oh, I'm going to smoke weed with the big boss man. Hell yeah, let's go. And this is back when weed was illegal, baby. So, extra spicy. And I was like, I was 22. And granted, 22 to a lot of people is like when they're doing a lot of salacious stuff. For me, I was still a pretty goody two-shoes.
Yeah, because you grew up kind of...
Yeah, not like repressed or anything, but just very like I'm still very I don't like confrontation. I don't like breaking the rules. I don't like
I'm the same way.
Possibly
I
getting caught doing something makes me so uncomfortable.
It's weird. Like it's when I'm drinking, when I used to drink when I was drinking, I didn't give a shit, but whenever even when I was a kid, when I wasn't drinking or getting fucked up, I was always just like, "Come on, guys, let's just not do that." Like, let's just not.
Being in a group and someone's doing something, I'm just like someone's gonna have to clean that up.
Yeah. Oh my god, I say that all the time.
It's just like it always is such a bummer to me because I'm like, you're harshing my good time because I have to be the only person here that has any empathy for like.
Yeah, like why are you screaming in the middle of like a restaurant because we've all done a couple shots? Now you're ruining everyone's time around us because you want all this attention. Or like we'll be at a bar watching a game and it's like, why are you trying to fight? Like, which granted, when I was drinking, I used to be that person, but it's just like, what are you doing? So I agree with you on that. But you're smoking weed with the big boss.
Smoking weed with the big man. But yeah, so to go back, Anderson was like, hey, me and Mike are going to do a show because now we have to do it because it's kind of what saved us from getting like either fired or suspended or whatever. The very funny thing was that Mike had to go to that meeting even though
Mike had no affiliation.
Mike was not an employee. Mike was not an official member of anything. He was just Anderson's friend that happened to be on the show, and they were like, no, you guys have to come in.
Both of you.
It's very strange. It's like going to the principal's office at a school that you don't go to.
You don't even attend.
But so yeah, I mean, like I always, of course, the reason I got into radio is I had delusions of getting to doing actual radio and getting paid for it, though not a delusion anymore.
Boom, baby.
And this was A, I was already in the building, and B, it was just it's so fun to screw around with your friends with microphones and recording equipment, as obviously we can attest to, and the entire podcast ecosystem can attest to. But it's extra fun when you're, I mean, it is obviously it's a real radio station. It's a real
it's a
recording place.
Studio.
I'm an absolute idiot with zero training, sitting at a board with, I don't know, 50 different channels and potentiometers and buttons and doing the drops. And not to mention, at any moment, if I did press the wrong button, I could hijack multiple stations around the country. I mean, crazy, but so fun.
In that Trojan Fire and Ice studio.
Oh, God. The worst. And then it was the Mask studio for a while, which, for people who aren't familiar with Mask, that was the main sponsor of Loveline for a significant period of time, which was a... remember those Listerine strips you put on your tongue? Yeah. It was like, instead of like a drip, it was like a little film that you put on your tongue to freshen your breath. This was like that, except you're supposed to put it on your tongue before you pleasured your partner with either fellatio or cunnilingus.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it was to make your partner's juices pleasant.
All right, that's enough.
Yeah. So that was the main sponsor of the fucking radio show.
Oh, man. There you go.
Yeah.
So when you guys started the After Disaster, we all are familiar with this. All of us who are initiated, and we are initiated, you guys, big partying in the studio. I don't know if you'd say partying, but you guys like to have a couple of
It wasn't partying
pops.
as much as it was just drinking without any sense of like...
Any regard.
We're going to do a show for... I mean, granted, in those days, sometimes we would end up doing a 2.5 hour, sometimes 3 hour show. But most of the time, it's like, okay, we're going to do a show for 90 minutes, and we each just drank 5 beers, and then we're going to go drive home. Mike to San Diego a lot of the time.
Oh, my God. I forgot about that.
Or at least
He'd always
Orange
come in
County.
with Del Taco.
Yeah, that was so clutch. That was the best. You'd always roll in with the party pack.
Yeah.
We would just... 12 o'clock would hit. The show would wrap up. Mike and Drew would peace out, and we'd be like, "All right, bye." We'd hit our theme song, and we'd start cracking drinks, and just it was the closest I've ever felt to being. Rock star is not the right word, but
it kind of
the way that a rock star can just go into whatever room and they're having their drinks, they're smoking their weed, they're doing whatever, and no one questions it because that's like part of their thing.
That's what they do, yeah.
And we got it it felt like it was like everyone left and it was our time and we're doing this and because we're like cool broadcasters. It was like it was total just bullshit fantasy, but it was a blast. I mean, it was,
and you're what, 20? You're 23 at the time,
yeah,
right? 23, 24?
I mean, I wasn't even engaged when we started the show. So yeah, I must have been, it was 23, 24. Yeah, there was definitely nights where I was like, I have to stay here a while and finish some work or something because I'm way too drunk to drive.
Oh, wow.
To drive home.
Because I know the big thing that sticks out in a lot of people's minds is like the Machete Night.
Machete Night. Yes, that's for people that don't know. Mike discovered that you can just buy machetes, which of course you can just buy machetes. It's not like it's like a gun. There's no you can just buy them. He sent us a picture one day. He's like, you can just get a machete at Home Depot for $10. I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, I'm getting you each one. Okay, cool. So he showed up with machetes, and of course we're doing our show Thursday night, and Thursdays was our weekend.
Oh,
we
yeah,
do shows on Friday.
Yeah.
So Thursday night was just, we'd go hog wild. I didn't work on Fridays. It was always a mess. We're drinking, and now we have giant, I don't know, how long was it? It was like a 2-foot long machete, and Mike and Anderson keep slamming the blades together to make that shing noise.
Yeah.
And we just kept doing it over and over again, trying to get the right sound. Cut to, I mean, we did that was a 2-hour show, and then we went out in the parking lot, and we would just screw around the parking lot for a while. Anderson would smoke cigarettes. I'd probably smoked a cigarette or two, probably also. And then I remember saying, let's go do another show. And they're just like, fuck it, let's do it. And it was like 3 a.m. We went back in there, and we started chucking the machetes into the ceiling of the multi-million-dollar studio, trying to get them to, you know how you throw pencils
to
in
get
school?
it to stick, yeah.
We were doing that with machetes. It didn't work. And they were definitely left marks. And then thankfully we had the presence of mind as we finished at like 4 a.m. or something to we're like, let's just save that episode and we'll re-listen to it at some point and decide if we can publish it. And we did at some point re-listen to it, and we were like, this cannot ever be published. And then even if we'd ever decided to change our mind to publish it, the IT people wiped the hard drives of that computer unbeknownst to us. It was years later. And so all those ancient ones that we had stored away in a secret folder on the Westwood One server were completely wiped and gone. So thankfully that will never see the light of day.
Oh, man.
Because it was just 3 very drunk people just being, just zero entertainment value.
Yeah, it's just, well, I mean, it's inside. It's
granted,
inside.
I could probably sell it as an NFT now for...
Hell yeah.
One of you idiots would buy it for a significant amount of money.
Farzad is trying to get me to do the NFT shit. I don't even fully grasp what it is. But Farzad's like, no, man, NFT, that's where it's at.
What does he want you to NFT?
I don't know.
Like your most popular joke?
Yeah, I don't. I have no idea. I just know we were doing the Friday night call, and he brought it up, and I was like, all right, man, cool. And he's like, no, man, I'm being, and he's always wasted when we're on the call. And he's like, I'm being serious. You got to do an NFT.
That was pretty good Farzad.
Thank you very much.
I mean, it's not hard to do. He kind of is like a deep Muppet voice. Love you, Farzad.
Huge shout out, Farzad. What's going on, man? I know you're listening.
My favorite Persian.
Huge favorite Persian. He's a great Persian.
One of the best.
So you go from just drinking, doing the show, excuse me, and then what was it like? Did something change as far as the after disaster and the dynamic and everything? Because it was only a few years into the show where Mike decided to get sober.
Yeah, it was like episode 100 or something like that. It's actually on. I believe that episode is available on YouTube with the video.
Okay.
Because that's the episode. I believe that's the same episode that we did the water taste test, where Mike.
I remember that he was.
Who aren't familiar with Mike, he was a big Fiji water fiend and was adamant that Fiji water is the best water on the planet, that it's worth $5 a bottle, that he could tell absolutely without a doubt what Fiji water was versus. So we did a blind taste test of tap water, Arrowhead, and Fiji, and he rated Fiji the worst and tap water the best. And I think that like broke his brain. But I believe that was the same episode that he was like, he just like blurted out, I think I'm an alcoholic and I need to stop drinking or whatever. And we were just like, oh shit. Okay. And then that's when he started, like, I don't think we knew to the degree to which Mike drank.
Like drunk vodka, that was a big thing.
He was a very, like, you hear about functioning alcoholics, and I guess that's what Mike was, because apparently he was showing up basically kind of always sauced, and I never knew. I didn't know he was sauced until we would then be doing the show and then drinking.
Yeah.
And then he would be like silly and loose. I'm like, oh, Mike's drunk. But like, yeah, the guy was, every time he stopped at a gas station, he had a bottle of water in his trunk that was just full of vodka, and he would slug a couple, shots of vodka before his drive home, and he would, he said he had one or two like vodka martinis with like lunch every day at the Improv, and then at dinner too, and just like
that trunk vodka idea I actually took from him.
Oh shit, really?
Because remember, I only have 3 years sober, and I didn't go to rehab until 2013. So when I was originally listening to you guys, and he would tell
these guys rule.
Well, yeah. So I'm calling into the show, and I'm hammered, and then Mike told. I'll never forget. I started drinking Fiji water because of Mike, and to this day, I drink Fiji water because of Mike.
Idiot.
I
you
swear.
Idiot. Have you ever done the taste test?
I think about that taste test all the time because I remember he picked tap water, but. The trunk vodka trick, pouring the booze, dumping out a bottle of water, and then just pouring vodka into it. So I would show up to work when I worked at this breakfast place, and same thing what you're describing. Like, I would be still drunk from the night before. I'd do 2 or 3 shots because I had to be up at 5:30 because it's breakfast. So I do 2 or 3 shots in order to get to work, like in order to function, or else I'd be shaking and throwing up and stuff. And then halfway through my shift, like when we had that lull right before lunch, I'd go out to the trunk, open the trunk, hot, sunny summer Florida day where it's like 110 outside.
With humidity.
Oh, baby, just drink that, smoke a cigarette, drink a couple more swigs, and then go back inside and finish the shift. Let's go. But I have to credit Mike for that.
Oh, what a terrible legacy. Well,
no, but... He's doing awesome now, and that was the thing.
No, I know. It's just it's funny the idea because
you're influencing people.
But I don't think we knew about that until he got sober. So you took his sober confession, and you're like, oh, I'll run with that. Like,
that's a great idea.
I'll pick up the torch, baby. I got you. Trunk vodka doesn't have to die.
That's the name of the episode. Trunk vodka doesn't have to die.
There are definitely times where I've been like, either like at a party or on a vacation, or even just like, I don't know, a week of just be like, oh, I drank like a lot this week. I'll be like, was that a problem? Was that like, am I on the brink of like too much or whatever? And then I'll like remember, I know alcoholics that would pull over to gas stations and drink hot vodka out of the trunk. I don't think that's quite. We're not there Yeah, not saying that you can't. Not saying that it goes from 0 to 100. Obviously,
Yeah, no, that's true. But I tell people all the time, they're like, "Man, I partied too hard this weekend. I think I need to like go to a meeting or something." And I'm like, "Let me tell you what it looks like, really."
Because I don't think you have that thought if you need, you know what I mean? Like your first thought after a tough weekend isn't, I got to go to a meeting. If you actually are in full blown, you're like, yeah, fine. That was a weekend. That's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, I've said it before, but the times where I'm like, oh man, maybe I should go to a meeting was because I was either in a hospital or in jail. And I was like, fuck.
Right. Exactly. That's the classic, to go back to Loveline, that's the classic rock bottom sort of moment of, I either need to wake up in the hospital or wake up in a jail cell to
kind of realize
I need to get my shit together.
Before any of that kind of stuff happens, you just think like, oh, I'm good. Like I didn't get arrested or end up in the hospital, so I'm fine. Yeah, I lost my job, but whatever. I'm good at waiting tables. I'll find another job. And then it's, oh boy. Well, and that's why we are going to have Mike on this show eventually, because I do want to talk to him about it too. But I wanted to get your perspective as, you're younger than the other two guys, and you're in your 20s, and then, but you know what I mean? Younger. Like, is that a shocking realization? Someone you've known for a few years, someone you've been doing this show with, someone you've been drinking with and stuff, for him to come out and say that, was that kind of a jarring moment for you, or?
It was jarring. We have a weird dynamic on the show because, like, Anderson and Mike were friends, but even Anderson and Mike weren't close friends. Mm-hmm. Anderson knew Mike through Mickey, who doesn't matter, another friend that he had gone to film school with. And Anderson just found him fascinating. Was like, this guy is a nut. I love hanging out. Anytime I'm with Mickey and Mike's there, it's a good time. And he does these funny YouTube videos, and it'd be cool to like bring him in and maybe do a show or something. So it's not like they were great friends before they linked up. And then you add me in the situation, and I only knew Anderson through work, and we'd only probably become like friends maybe a year before we started doing the show, because I was just the geeky goody two shoes call screener for like the first 6 or 8 months, that he was just like, oh, this fucking guy.
Yeah,
like,
I could imagine
this guy with all this energy, just like, oh, gee, I'm here to do a radio with Dr. Drew.
What's up, guys? We're doing a nationally syndicated broadcast.
Yeah. Totally. Bringing my
when you guys you and Anderson used to hang out after Loveline, after Disaster, before all that stuff.
Begrudgingly, it was after Anderson was in this really terrible accident that
where he peed on the devil.
He didn't show up. No, not that one. No,
I'm sorry.
He didn't show up to work one night, and we called around and eventually found out what hospital he was at. And
holy shit!
Basically, Dr. Drew was like, I'm not going to go check on him because he's not going to want me to show up, which I was like, but you're Dr. Drew. But later when I did ask Anderson, he's like, I'm so glad Drew isn't the one that came to the hospital. But like producer Ann, who was his friend of like 20 years, she was just like, I've got to like go home and be with my family. And I was just like, okay, I'm the call screener, and I guess I will, because someone needed to go get his dog, because Stanley was at the hospital with him. And I was like, okay, I guess I barely know the guy, but sure, I'll go. And I met him at the hospital, and poor bastard. He'd been in an accident. I don't know who was at fault, but whoever he'd been in the accident with hit him over the head with a Maglite flashlight.
Oh, I forgot about all this.
Like,
I do remember. Now that you're saying it, I remember. Yeah.
And so I went there, and I had to, the cops were trying to get into his room while I was there, and they're like, "Do you know this guy?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm his coworker." And they're like, "Well, he's like, anytime there's an accident like this, like we need to do like a blood alcohol test, and he keeps refusing, and like we're gonna have to arrest him if he just keeps saying no." And I was like, "What the okay?" So I'm like talking to this like delirious Anderson who's got stitches across his head because he's been beaten with a fucking Maglite, and I'm like, "Hey man, you just gotta let these dudes like do their thing, or it's gonna be a problem." And whatever. That finally they left him alone, and I took the dog, and then they decided that they could discharge him. And I was like, I'll drive you home. I took him to his apartment, which is literally now, his apartment at the time was right across the street from where I work at Late Late Show now, which is bizarre.
Oh, wow.
And
it's a small world for such a big city.
He is a big city and a very small world. He, the poor bastard, he kept trying to give me his pillow. He was like, "Oh, thank you so much for like taking me home and like taking care of me." And I was going to sleep on his couch, and he's like, "Oh, here, you need pillows. You need pillows." I was like, "Anderson, you just got your head beat in with a flashlight. Take the fucking pillows. I'm fine." I think that was that's what cracked open our friendship was that night of me being there for him when all the people he'd worked with for decades were not there.
It's really funny how you bring that up, though, because that's 100% true. There are people that I've worked with for years, and the last time I was in the hospital, no phone calls, no texts, no nothing.
It was bizarre. Yeah, it was weird. It added some. It was weird air there for a while at the studio, as you can imagine.
Oh yeah, well, especially because Anderson loves confrontation.
Oh, loves it. That man, if he sees confrontation that no one's addressing, he's like, let's get into it.
Here we go.
So to bring it back around, yeah. So for Mike so we have this weird dynamic of like, the three of us have gone through a lot of life experiences together, but it's not like we hang out. Mike and Anderson hang out more than I hang out with Anderson or I hang out. But I still consider the both of them like to be two of my best friends, even though it's all through the lens of this show that we've done every week for 11 years. But that sounds kind of silly, but also that means I see them more than the majority of the people that I consider my close friends. I mean, besides my wife and besides coworkers that I consider friends, I see them more than anyone else in the world, which is weird. So even at the time, having only been 2 or so years in, for this person who I thought we were all just hanging out, having a good time, to just be like, yeah, by the way, I'm an alcoholic and I got to stop drinking. And like, I don't care if you guys do it anymore, but like, I got to stop. It was just kind of like, oh shit. You realize how much stuff can be going on in people's lives that you are not,
and you have no idea,
aware of. And this is not even like something that was hidden. It was like, obviously, like, we're drinking all the time, and like, it never occurred to me like, oh, he might have a problem. I mean, there's definitely nights where him or Anderson or myself would leave that parking lot. I'm like, I'm not sure that person should be driving or I should be driving. You know, like, there would be those kind of moments, but like, everyone's had those moments, whether or not they have a problematic relationship with substances. So yeah, when he just laid it out on the line and then started telling us, like, you know, why he believes he has a problem, it's like, holy shit. Yeah, it's definitely one of those.
It can be very telling.
It's one of those things that, like, it's just a reminder to have compassion for people, because you don't know what they're dealing with on a day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where you just, like you said, you just don't know. So there are times where I've been involved with, like, people, be it, you know, the other shows, the network. Maybe we're not going to, you know, we won't talk about it. That's too serious. But
my favorite joke. My favorite joke.
I love it. But like, sometimes things will happen and I'm like, what the fuck is there? Like, it was talking to somebody and I'll be like, what the fuck's their problem? And then I'm like, oh, wait a second. Like, we see each other once, maybe twice a week. Like, I have no idea what's going on. So maybe just not jump into any kind of shit with anybody. So it's weird, especially to the point you said earlier about seeing Mike and Anderson more than you see most of your friends. Because that's what I've noticed too, is I've got friends that I went to college with, people that I played football with, all that kind of stuff, that if they called me tomorrow and said, hey man, I need you to get here, I'd be there, drop of a hat. But we don't talk on a weekly basis. So it's just fascinating because, like you said, you're not hanging out with them every day, but you do see each other once a week. It's a commitment that you guys have.
Yeah. And we're in this absurd group chat that is just constantly like, when are we doing the show? I don't know. When are you doing the show? I can't do the show that day. And okay, well, let's do it that way. No, let's do it this time. And then when we will all decide on a day, then it's, okay, we need to make sure Mike still remembers that we're doing the show that day. Yeah. and
where you're going to do it.
And then it will be a never-ending joke of where we just keep saying, I'm sorry, guys, I can only do tonight. And then Mike will reply, oh, that's no good for me. I can only do tonight. And then Anderson will be like, no, I hate to break it to you guys, but something just came up at Film Vault. I can only do tonight. And we'll just keep saying that night is the night that we're doing the show, but this a never-ending text thread of like, no, sorry, I can't do it.
I can only do it tonight.
Very absurd.
Oh, man. So you did allude to it earlier. You kind of, like you said, you don't like confrontation. You're kind of, you like to play by the rules, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But have you ever been in any kind of trouble when it comes to either the law or just like done anything stupid in regards
I have
to
even my stories of getting in trouble with the law are like so goody two shoes versions of getting in trouble with the law. The closest, probably the closest you could say I've come to being arrested, I guess, would be the time that my friends and I, my high school friends, who I'm still, but the majority of my friends are my high school friends. Cool guy alert. We were 20. There was
your high school friends and then two guys that are like 10 years older than you.
Yeah. Well, one of them's 20 years older. One of them's 10.
Yeah.
We were like the kids that I honestly I did not drink at all until after high school. It was like it wasn't like a conscious decision. I never went to a party in high school. Also, my high school didn't throw that many parties, but I never went to a party in high school.
You went to a Catholic school, right?
Christian high school, same thing, whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
And once we graduated, then we would start having parties on the weekend at my now wife's house, her parents' house. They were the kind of parents of like, they're going to drink somewhere, like just let them drink at our house. And
I have a whole bit about that. I had the cool mom.
Yeah.
You've all seen Mean Girls. I had the cool mom.
Absolutely. So we would, we'd go on Friday and we'd give Kareen our money and she would buy all the booze for everyone and just buying absolute dog shit tequila and vodka.
Hell yeah.
It's so funny, like when you don't know how to drink and you're just like, yeah, I drink screwdrivers. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why
would you do
being
that?
19 and drinking
With
screwdrivers on a Friday
with the
night.
shitty vodka that comes out of the plastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Pop-Off. Oof.
Yeah, Pop-Off. What do you know about Pop-Off?
Pop-Off vodka and Bandoleros tequila.
Damn, so you've been with Lauren this entire time?
I started dating Lauren the end of our senior year.
Of high school?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
For some reason, I thought you had been like. How long have you guys? You knew her obviously all through high school,
her,
correct?
Yeah, I knew her. I knew she existed freshman year of high school. She didn't know I existed until sophomore year of high school, and we went to a small school, so thanks a lot. But yeah, we've been together since 2004. So 17 years, crazy.
To parties at Lauren's house.
Parties at Lauren's house. This was back. So when I first started, I was like, I realized, wait, why am I drinking all this beer when I could just do a shot of tequila?
Exactly.
And
exactly.
I was the guy that started, I would bring a marker and I would just mark a shot on my hand each time I had one. Because I realized after the first, couple dabblings with it that like after 5 or 6, I didn't know how many I'd had. So
after the first couple blackouts, you're like, maybe I should track
this. I need to track this. So then it became like how many hash marks can I get on my wrist, and still like be alive. And there are some photos out there somewhere on one of Lauren's ancient digital cameras that's in my garage somewhere of Tyler going full troll mode. I'm under the table with I think I have like it's like a 5, 4 with a cross through it and then 2 more. I guess so 7. I think I'm like 7 shots in and I'm just, when you're 18 and not drinking that much, 7 shots of tequila in probably 2 hours or something is a crazy amount. But honestly, it was very wholesome. Like we would all spend the night there. Like no one did anything crazy. Like it was the only unsafe thing was maybe the amount of alcohol that some people drank, but it was still, there was adults there. And if anything had happened, the hospital is literally a block away. Like if you were going to drink with your stupid high school friends to excess, it really was the way to do it.
Yeah, because we used to be more because I didn't really drink until after high school either. But I remember took a year off between high school and college before I went to play football, and I got my own place. So I was the only person.
Oh no!
Exactly. So everyone who was either going to the local community college, or everyone who was away at college who would come back for any amount of time for a break,
you were the spot.
Everyone would come to my house.
I'm guessing you didn't get your security deposit back.
No, I did. In fact, funny story. I got my security deposit back because the landlord was a gay man, and he said he would give me double my security deposit if I would have sex with him.
So did you have sex with him?
No, I did not have sex with him.
So
but
you just got your regular security deposit?
I got my regular.
Okay.
Because once you put that out in the open, you can't not give me my security deposit now.
That's fantastic. By the way,
Yeah.
Florida, a lot of amigos are down there.
Oh yeah. Every time I see him, I always want to take a picture and send it to you.
Unfortunately,
but I'm always like,
they
what?
rust down there. That's the issue.
Oh, because of the humidity.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason I have mine. The guy I bought mine from, he was being transferred to Florida, and he didn't.
I remember,
He couldn't stand for it to rust out there, so he sold it to me. And then guess what? I checked in with him recently.
His transfer was off.
His transfer's canceled, and poor bastard, just really missing his amigo. Anyways, no one cares about that. So yeah, you were the stop-off point for everybody for the party.
Yeah, so everyone came to my house to party, and then that's when I first like really got into like partying and stuff. But like you said, so where you were at, it was safe because there was somebody there. You know, there's adults, and they understand like when you're that age, 5 or 6 shots is a lot, but it's not enough to like do any kind of serious harm. So imagine you have no supervision at all. And it's just a bunch of alpha, former football players and like athletes and jocks. Mix that. We didn't invite baseball players though. Mix that with.
You didn't want the cool people showing up?
I knew you'd say that. But then you mix that with just an abundance of alcohol, and there were times I've mentioned this before, but I'd walk out and my car would be like, where you're on the driveway, but you're also in the grass, like into the bushes.
Yeah.
And like bottles everywhere and people like laying in their own vomit. And I was like, this is not healthy.
There's that moment in the party where you're like, we're going to live forever. This is the best night ever. And then one thing happens. You're like, fuck. It's one of those nights.
Party's
those
over,
people
guys.
are fighting. Now 2 people are throwing up. Someone just broke my shit.
Yeah.
Like people are being
put their head into the wall.
People are being loud on the patio. Like it can just, the balance is so... It could just snap in an instant from fun party that feels like you're in like a Dazed and Confused movie to oh no, I'm just in an episode of Cops now.
The cops show up. Whose house is this? Oh damn!
How did you guys get your booze? Because if you were you were 18 or 19?
Yeah, so I was I graduated at 17. So
okay, smart.
Yeah, so I'm a summer baby. So I turned 18 like shortly after. I turned 18 like a month after I graduated, but I'm like, yeah, I graduated at 17.
Oh, so you're the guy that couldn't drive until like
junior year.
Yeah. I didn't drive. I didn't get my license until I was 18.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a fucking loser. So again, no one cares, but I was like, I don't have any money. I can't afford insurance. Why would I get my license? Never mind the fact you can just get your license and then get a car and insurance when you have money like later on.
Yeah, you could just get. Oh wow! So you're just like, no, I'm just.
Yeah, so
I'll get it when I can.
So instead,
afford
I got
it.
my permit, and then I was just like, and I didn't go take my driver's test until I was 18. Cool.
God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very cool. Very cool. My wife, then girlfriend, loved driving me everywhere.
Everywhere. So I had a similar situation, but that was because of my multiple DUIs.
Oh, sick.
So, but same thing. Didn't have a license. Had to be chauffeured around.
That is
same boat.
That's one of the upsides. It's one of the few upsides that people don't like to talk about the DUI is that then you become Mr. You get chauffeured everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's very prestigious.
Well, it was always. So this is gonna sound really, really sad, but it was always cool to be like whenever my girlfriend would be like, "Hey, do you want to like go on a trip or something?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." So we a lot of times we drive to Orlando from Jacksonville. It's like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We'd go to Disney. What you guys do in California, we do here in Florida. But she would always have to drive. So I'd be like, I'm just gonna nap the whole way, babe.
Hell yeah! My version of that was turning my Isuzu Trooper into my pool truck. So it was just constantly. For those people, usually when you see a pool truck, it's a pickup truck, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, because of the chlorine.
A Isuzu Trooper is a fully enclosed SUV. So the back of my truck was completely full of chlorine and acid, and that smell does not go away.
At all.
So no one wanted to take my car. So when we went on trips and stuff, there's not a chance anyone was like, can you drive? So I never had to drive anyone ever. Plus, I always had the back seat folded up, so I only had a 2-seater anyways. Yeah, genius.
Yeah, that's the best. That was probably the best part about not having a license. It was just kind of like, I guess, I mean.
And how many DUIs?
I would drive.
How many DUIs
I would drive.
Do you have to have in Florida before they take your license away? It's like 8?
Just, no, 1. But I got 2.
They're like, all right, son, unfortunately you hit a gator and we cannot have that. That is
Actually, both DUIs. No accident, no nothing. Just the cops were like, this guy's wasted. I've told the stories before, but yeah, it was basically both times. They had a feeling I was wasted, and so they just got a reason to pull me over.
And you're like,
well, the second time I was in a parking lot during a hurricane, and the cop walked up, and she's like, I told you not to get back in your car. Now you're coming with me. And I was like, I thought you left. Damn it. Yeah, it was bad.
I only have one time where I drove home where I absolutely should not have driven, and I knew it. And I don't know why I didn't just.
I love these stories.
I don't know why I didn't. I don't know
show.
why I didn't just pull over, because it occurred to me halfway through the drive home, like, you are too drunk. You should not be driving. Just stop. But instead, my genius brain, I decided that I would just count out loud, and, and that would keep me focused and present and sober somehow. I don't know. All I know is that I got to about the number 650 by the time I got home, and I was just like, I think I pulled into my driveway and was like 650. And then I snuck inside. I was still living at home. I snuck inside through anytime that I came home extra late or I was drunk, I would climb in through my bedroom window as opposed to opening the door, just in the off chance that one of my parents would like hear it and come down the hall, which literally would never have happened anyways. But I was so paranoid that I would rather basically break into my own house.
Into your own room.
That's the benefit of having lib parents who don't have guns. You don't have to worry about someone firing off a shotgun because they hear a window pried open. But yeah, driving. I have a distinct memory of driving down. I know what street I was on, where I was like, you need to start rolling. You need to roll down the window and just start counting out loud, and just. Yeah, terrible.
Well, you're coming off of you guys out of Solidarity, didn't you and Lorenzo do a 90-day thing?
We did. We were. I was not. She was strictly 90 days, no boozing.
Yeah, she was real gung ho into it.
Except for one day she did booze because they had a girls' trip planned. But then as punishment, they all made themselves run a 5K the next morning.
There you go.
So, but yeah, she was fully 90 days sober from January 1st to March 30th. And I didn't have wine or hard liquor the entire time, and I would have beers here and there, but I'm sure I had less than 20 beers in the 3 months, which, like, it was definitely a good adjustment because we were, especially in the pandemic, we were cracking drinks far too often at random ass times of day. You're just like, it's 4:00 on a Tuesday. I'm working from home. You want to make margarita? Perfect. Let's have a margarita, which is fine. Look, having an afternoon margarita is fine, except then it's like, you want another one? All right, cool. Let me get a beer. And then you're like, it's 10:00 and I've had 6 drinks. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. So it was a good little reset to have.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry to go back. The closest I got to being arrested, right?
Oh
Pay
yeah,
off that story.
Kind of got off track. Yeah.
Sorry,
this is turning into our own little mini after disaster.
It is. What are we in? 2 hours on this thing?
We're at 58 minutes.
Okay, so as I said, I was goody two shoes. I'm 20 years old. I'm with 5 of my friends. 6 of my friends. One of
Mr. Popular must be nice.
Sorry, I had 6. I did have 6 friends. One of them was 21. That is important for the story. 5 of us are 20. One of them is 21.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. For some reason, I thought you were still in high school.
No. So we, one night we were like those kids that just hung. I don't think this is unique, but we just hung out in parking lots all the time. You just like there's nowhere for us. We're too young to go to bars. We're too old to like. What are we gonna go bowling every night, Tuesday and Wednesday? Like whatever. Like we just.
I'm 33, but a lot of the comics we just hang out in parking lots too.
Yeah.
After shows, we just all mingle out in the parking lot and loiter for hours.
You go see a movie at 7:00. It's now 9:00. You go eat dinner at the McDonald's because that's all you can afford, and then you just stand in that McDonald's parking lot for way too long. And so one night it was one of those parking lot nights, and we're like, let's go do something. And my buddy, whose car's our house we're all at, he lived near a elementary school. He's like, let's go to the elementary school. They have a roof that's right by the this street that passes by. Let's throw water balloons at cars as they drive by. And we're 20 years old. And we're like, yeah, cool, great idea. So we go and buy water balloons. We fill them all up.
Oh, you had to make it's not even like they were in somebody's garage.
No, we had to make a stop.
Just grab them.
No, we had to make a stop for water balloons, which at the same stop, our one friend who's 21, I think she bought a 12-pack of Smirnoff Ice for 6 people. So, we were getting after it. So we trespass onto this elementary school, hop up onto the roof. There's this little access point to get up onto the roof, and and 4 of the people there were all baseball players, so we can actually, throw a ball, throw things pretty far.
Because you're a pitcher, right?
Pitcher, yeah. I'm an incredible pitcher. I don't want to get into it, but my elbow's been hurting for like 2 months. So stay tuned on that.
Tommy John, here we go.
I know. Oh, I'm gonna start throwing 90. Yes. So we're chucking water balloons at cars, and it's close to midnight, and it's a street that you probably get 1 car every 2 minutes. So we're swig a little Smirnoff, shoot the shit, and then I see headlights. And then like, all right, let's get ready. 1, 2, 3, and then chuck a couple. We hit 1 car just straight on the windshield, just boom across the windshield. The guy jams on the brakes. Of course.
Yeah.
Like thinking about it, I was like, yeah, of course. And the car jams on the brakes, peels around the block, comes back again, and we threw water balloons again. He jams on the brakes.
Same guy.
We didn't hit him this time, but he stops. He opens. We hear that unmistakable door open and close down. He's like, "Listen up, motherfuckers!" We're like, "What?" We didn't say what, but we're all listening. We're ducking down. He's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you!" Like I've got a gun. You think I'm joking? We're like, okay,
Russell Crowe unhinged, baby.
Maybe it's time to go. So he kind of like stomps around and then he leaves because we don't come out and show ourselves because we're pussies. And we decide we've probably worn out our welcome. It's time to go. We get down, scramble off the roof, and as we're getting to the car is parked in a dead end. It like butts up against the school, and 2 squad cars come down the street as we're getting to the car. We're like,
shit.
Fuck no. Of course, and me, Mr. Goody Two Shoes, I'm like, this is it. My life is over. I'm gonna go to jail. I'm gonna go to jail. My parents will never talk to me again. I'm gonna be a felon. I'm not gonna be able to get a job. Just absolutely a person who's never had a bad encounter with the police. Like that's clearly what's happening with me right there. And they light us up with the big spotlight. My one buddy takes off running, so the rest of us just walk to the car. We're like, we're caught. Like what are you gonna do? Like let's go to the car. And actually, I'm sorry. They got us as we were getting in the car. Like we were getting in because my one buddy had hopped in the back where there's no seatbelts. Obviously, he's just like in the back, like crunched down. And we're like, we got to get out of the car. Like we're busted. And my one buddy he had run off initially when he had seen the police, and then I tried to like sneak to the car. So now he's drenched with sweat, soaking with sweat in the car. And this cop comes up and he shines his light on us. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" Like, what? We're like, "Oh, we're just hanging out." And he's like, "What's this guy's deal?" My buddy Joey, who was a little overweight at the time, had been sprinting and is just drenched with. Oh, I'm mixing up my stories. So is just drenched from the run to the car because we were going to try to get away. We obviously didn't get away. The cop goes, "Why are you so sweaty?" And Joey's line is, "I was running. He's like, "Yeah, you were running your car to get away." He's like, "No, I was jogging over there." And he's like,
my God.
You were with your 6 friends and you were just going for a jog by yourself over like in the corner of the park?" Yeah. He's like, "Son, just..." And
Joey.
I believe I turned to Joey and was like, "Just stop talking. Like, just don't." The guy's like, "Can everyone get out of the car?" We're like, "Yeah, sure." So we all get out of the car. We're all sit down on the... I'm sitting on the curb. I'm like, I've seen this in cops before. This is it. I'm done. He's like, "Everyone sit, 6 feet apart. Just don't fucking move.
Don't talk to each other. Give
me your licenses." So we all give him our ID. He walks away and comes back, and he's clearly just like he's so over it because it's a group of, it's 5 white guys and our friend that had bought the Smirnoff was an Asian girl. It's like 5 white guys and an Asian girl in Arcadia is like, of course, it's you idiots. Like, it's just, this is, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
He goes, first of all, you guys are really lucky your friend here is 21, because otherwise I've got you on an elementary school with alcohol and you're underage. So don't be fucking idiots. Also, are any of you the Bacchus boys? And we're like, what are the Bacchus boys? And he's like, you guys are here to tag, right? And we're like, no, what? He's like, let me see your fingers. So he checks everyone's hands. We don't have any spray paint on our hands.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I guess you're not the Bacchus boys. We're like, who are the Bacchus boys? He's like, it's a gang that tags the school up all the time. Don't worry about it. And
who are these Bacchus boys?
What the hell? And this one cop, he's like, all right, I'll be back. And we're thinking he's like writing up tickets for us or something, or going to call our parents or whatever. And the other cop is standing there and he's like, so what do you guys, he's like, okay, you guys weren't tagging the school. You're not like doing some weird teenager gangbang. Like what? Like, what were you guys doing? And we're like, and he like, I think he saw some water balloons. He's like, were you guys the ones throwing water balloons at the cars? Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
And he goes, mm-hmm. Did you guys hit any cars? And my friend was about to answer, and I kick him with my foot, and I was just like, I don't know how to answer that question, sir. And he goes, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't give a fuck if you hit a car or not. We're like, yeah, we got a couple of cars. We got him like right on the window. We're like, this one guy, he was so pissed. He said he's gonna come shoot us, and he was like, yeah, what a pussy. And then the other cop came back, and he was just like, where do you guys live? We're like literally just in the city. He's like, just go home. Don't do this shit ever again. I will arrest you the next time. Like, just. He's like, there has to be something else for you guys to do. Go pull on your wangs or something. Like, stop fucking throwing balloons in my city. Like, fair.
Damn, man, that's crazy.
Fair enough, sir. Like, it's the fact that is my closest brush with police is, another indication of my privileged, charmed life.
Well, it's weird because I've talked about this before, but it's so interesting. The first time you get arrested, take it from me, you think, oh my God, my life is over. Everything's ruined. Like, nothing good can come of this. By the 3rd and 4th time, you're just kind of like, all right, cool. I'll see you tomorrow.
It is weird to me that there is those kind of arrests where they're like, we just have to get this person out of this location for a certain amount of time, and then tomorrow morning, here's your shit. Get the fuck out of here. Like,
I've been a part of
you
those.
basically are just being babysat by the state.
That's all it is. Where you're just wasted, and they're like, well, we can't, in good conscience, just leave him here.
Right.
So it's like, oh, we're going to arrest you for public indecency or public intoxication or whatever, and you're just going to come with us. And then 8 hours later, it's called ROR, released on your own recognizance. They just let you go. You're
like, would you like to sign yourself out? Yes, I would like to leave the
Yes,
jail,
I
please.
would.
Thank you very much. I'll see you again in a couple months.
Oh, man, this is fun. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate your time.
Sure, no problem. In case you make any edits, do you want another quick drunk story?
Yeah, for
so
sure.
You can
go
cut
ahead.
some of that other boring shit out, and you can put this in.
No, it's all staying. But yeah, go ahead.
This is my only Tyler blacked out, doesn't recall a good chunk of the story.
Oh wow.
Thing. I was living in an apartment with 2 of my friends from high school. Yeah, you guessed it. And I was out of work at the time, and
2 of the same 6, or are these 2 additional
this was
friends?
This was 2 of the 6. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say 8 friends. Whoa.
So the 2 of them, my roommates, Joey and Drew, they worked at a restaurant that also
Joey.
That also Joey that was out for the run. That was Lauren, my wife, worked there also. So the 3 of them were thick as thieves at this restaurant. And Drew had to work that day, but I was off. Joey was off, and our friend Gavin, who we played baseball, was off. And I don't know how, but we got hooked up with someone that was like, "Hey, we need security for this beer fest at this hoity-toity garden that's out near close to where I live now, in this pretty rich part of Los Angeles." And we're like, "Yeah."
And how old are you at the time?
I was 20. This was in between. I'd been fired from Loveline before I got rehired. So this was in this.
Okay.
The only time in my life where I had no school, no job. I was getting unemployment and just living with my friends, and it was it was 10 months of just absolute.
Pretty sweet.
It was pretty sweet. It was great. So they're like, yeah, you just become you'll just wear a yellow jacket and be a quote unquote security guard for like 8 hours. You get paid like $20 an hour. I'm like, yeah, great, incredible, fantastic.
That's the best.
So we showed up, and within like 1 hour, they cut us. They're like, we don't need you. Here's a pass. Just enjoy the beer fest. We're like, okay. So the three of us just start wandering around, but we still have all the accoutrement of being people that work at the place. So the different beer vendors are like, oh, these aren't just like beer fest people. They work here. So like, let's hook them up. And so you're walking around. You have the little it's like a 2-ounce taster cup, which you don't think is that much beer until you're like sip, 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 and you've just had one beer in 3 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can start consuming a significant amount of alcohol without realizing
6
it.
samples is a beer.
And these are all like craft beer places. So a bunch of them you're just like, okay, what's your highest ABV? Yes, I'd love to try your 12% Scorpion Killer IPA. Yeah, perfect. I'll have that one. So now your 2-ounce shot is essentially like the same alcohol content as a normal beer. So needless to say, we were pretty sloshed, and we started. This was around. You remember that Tabasco commercial where the you remember the pepperonis on the pizza would sing?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a something concoction. There's more than just heat. It goes with all your favorite cheeses, sauces, and meat. Shake, 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 shake. Whatever. But that Tabasco song
jingle,
had just hit on the radio, and Joey, Gavin, and I were convinced that we were a barbershop quartet. And so we were singing it to people. We were like, oh, can we get a second? And they're like, well, we're not supposed to serve another one. We're like, well, we'll sing you, that Tabasco song? We'll sing you at Barbershop Quartet. And they'd be like, okay. So
wow.
Cut to us singing the song over and over and over again. People just giving us all the beer. All of it. Finally, the event is closed. It's time to go home. Basically, the last thing I remember is as we're walking to the car, there's just a pile of ice, bags and bags of ice. And we're like, we need ice for the apartment. So we just go and load our car with like 20 bags of those 20 bags of like the 20-pound ice. Just much ice in the car. We drive home, which we should not have driven home. Definitely none of us could drive. We get back to the apartment. We pull in. And I'm like, wow, we made it. This is great. We have ice for the apartment, and we made it without anyone getting a DUI, and we can go hang out at the house. And Joey goes, Lauren and Drew are working. Should we go see them?
Oh, no.
And apparently we are all like, yeah, let's go to the restaurant. So this is where then I don't remember anything else. But apparently we went to the restaurant, which was close, so we didn't drive drunk too far. Like that matters. But we got to the restaurant, and
is it a privately owned restaurant, a corporate restaurant? Like what?
It's a family that owns like 5 different restaurants. So it's not corporate, but it's not a single whatever. They own a couple.
Which actually is very important, because if your significant other shows up wasted, if it's a corporate restaurant, you're probably fired.
Yeah.
But if it's a family owned, you can get away with it.
Well, it must be family owned, because apparently so the back room was kind of they weren't using the back room at the time, which was good. So they just put our 3 drunk asses back there, just get these guys some fucking
so
bread.
So you guys like walked in like ready to eat, like, hey, Lauren, we're here.
Lauren was serving, and our roommate Drew was a manager. So we're kings, like we're untouchable, like we're like the good fellas. We're like, hey, let me get a couple.
Hey, we're gonna sit in the back.
Yeah, let me get a couple pizzas, huh?
Bring out the breadsticks. Come on, where's the marinara sauce?
To the point where apparently, at one point, I was just asleep on a table,
of course,
in the back room. And then I woke up and decided I really wanted a kiss from my wife. And
you did.
This is so not me.
While she's talking to a table?
I still don't even believe it. Like, I need to see security footage. But apparently I was like chasing her around the restaurant like the Pirates of the Caribbean, trying to get, like how they're chasing the women.
I get it.
Apparently I was like basically chasing my now wife around the restaurant and be like, come on, just one kiss. And
wow, that sounds out of character.
I know.
I've known you for 11 years.
I know. It's very not me at all. And I guess she was basically like, she realized she couldn't reason with me because I was so blottoed. And she like either to our roommate Drew or to Joey or Gavin, who must have not have been as tanked as I was. And they were just like, get my boyfriend the fuck out of here now, because I just woke up the next morning at home and I was like, oh, and I texted Lauren. I was like, oh, how was your night? She's like, do you not remember anything? And she told me all that shit. I was like, you've got to be shitting me.
Wow.
Yeah. So that makes up for some of the boring stories I told.
No, that's all the stories were fantastic. Lauren wasn't as jacked back then. She
wasn't doing CrossFit, so she wasn't. I wasn't as scared of her as I.
I was gonna say, because if you tried that now, she'd probably.
She would just. I would have been definitely asleep in that back room for sure. My glass jaw would not have held. I've never been.
She just turns around.
As you can probably guess based on my stories, I've never been in a fight, never been in a drunk brawl, none of that shit.
Wait, you've never even playing baseball? You never got into a fight, like a bench clearing or anything like that?
I've been the cause of a fight because someone like punked me on the field, and then everyone came to like my defense. But I've never had a situation where I was going to come to blows, unfortunately, which I think is lame. I think I should like have one scrap.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who is quite the opposite, it's not like a fun thing. And I've talked about that before. Like when you're in your 20s, it's like cool, like, yeah, don't fuck with so and so. But when you're in your 30s, you're like, I don't. What are we doing?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Let's use our
There's
words.
A window where
exactly.
There's a window where it feels like it's not cool isn't the right word, but like
it's a rite of passage.
Appropriate
almost.
rite of passage. I'm well outside that one. I can't be 35 married with a kid and be like, all right, let's fucking go.
You want to do it?
Especially on a baseball field, playing like Sunday League baseball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Those days have passed me by.
Well, and a lot of times it's over the dumbest shit too. Like I remember one of the last fights I got into, it was because you'll like this. It was a guy was talking to my so this was one of the last like full on like bar brawls I got into. I fought a lot when I was in jail and stuff, but that's only because you have to. When you go to jail, you have to fight.
How long were you in jail?
Which time?
What was your longest stint?
3 months.
Oh, that's so long to me. As you can tell from my stories, that is so long. That's so long, Brennan.
A couple of weeks here and there, and then 3 months, and then
what did you do?
A couple of overnights.
Brennan,
you got so concerned. This is a bit I do on stage, but because most of my stuff I talk about on stage is just stories.
Yeah, because you're
from
a
my
fucking
crazy
hack,
past.
right?
Yeah. Exactly. I'm what's wrong with comedy.
You're one of the comedians that actually your stories are actually from your life, as opposed to I swear to God, it is embarrassing how late in my life I realized like,
that never happened.
Oh, comedians just make stuff up because that's also the reason they become like TV writers and make shows, because they just are good at telling stories, and stories don't have to be true to be funny.
That's actually something
a fucking dumbass.
I've been battling with that, and I talked about it a few weeks ago on Rob Rowick's episode because he's a comic from Daytona, and that's something I struggle immensely with. Like, to be honest with you, that's something I have a very hard time with, because a lot of the stories that I have, like I've got this scar that goes down my face. I've got scars all over my arms and stuff. And like between the alcohol,
we get it. You're fucking cool.
No, it's not cool. It's very sad. But between the alcoholism and getting arrested and stuff, I like to tell those stories on stage because I can make them funny. And then it gives people the ability to laugh at dark stuff, which I like. But then it becomes this thing where I've had this discussion with my girlfriend where she goes, yeah, but if you just said it like this, that's funnier. And I go, yeah, but that's not the truth.
Right.
And she goes, well, it doesn't, your job is not to be a truth teller. Your job is to be a joke teller.
And I guess it becomes a very esoteric conversation about like, well, there can be there can be truth in the thing that isn't actually something that happened to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And so it becomes this very, like you said, esoteric, almost like this weird minutia that you kind of have to work through of like, well, do I want to be someone who tells the truth? So I've got some stories like how I got the scar on my forehead where I will not alter the story at all.
Right.
And then I've had comics come up to me and say, hey, man, that story's kind of intense. It kind of makes you look like a psycho. Long story short, I took a blade to my face to prove a point in a fight.
No, that sounds reasonable.
I proved my point. But they're like, it kind of makes you look like a psycho. Why don't you say like someone broke a bottle over your head or something like that, like something a little lighter? And I go, like, no, because that's the story.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to tell. But then you do it, and in some rooms, people look at you like you're a psycho. And it's like, oh, that did not go the way I had planned it to go.
I definitely in my early 20s, was probably the most in my life where people were like, they're like, you're funny. You should have you ever thought about like doing stand up? I'm like, why would I do stand up? Nothing interesting happens to me. Like I don't have stories to tell.
Yeah.
Because I had no concept that, I'm being lied to every time I consume.
Yeah, you didn't even think about that. Yeah. Well, so real quick, just to answer your question. So the 3 months was my first DUI. I got a year of probation, along with all the other stuff.
Better
but
than
I was
amateur
on a year,
probation, baby.
I was on a year of probation.
Why don't I do stand up?
After 6 months, I barely graduated from FAU. I was done with school though, graduated by the skin of my teeth. So now it's 6 months after I had gotten put on probation, but I'm no longer in school. I'm all finished. I'm no longer getting student loans. I can't really afford rent. I don't have a car to drive around. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to head back home. And I just left. Fast forward 3 years, I'm now came to Jacksonville, Florida to go to rehab. I'm now sober. I'm living in a halfway house, driving to an AA meeting, have my seatbelt off in the front seat of a truck.
Oh, no.
These cops were like, hey, pull it over. So we pull over. They asked me I'm not driving because I don't have a license, obviously, because I had a DUI 3 years prior. And I have not touched anything with this DUI. I haven't tried to fix anything, haven't worked anything out, haven't even touched it. Cops walk up. I know I have a warrant out because I left probation.
Because part of your probation was you weren't allowed to leave Jacksonville?
No, at the time I was living in South Florida, and part of my so I had after 6 months, I still had 6 more months where I was supposed to check in every month. I was supposed to do community service. Like you're not allowed to leave the county unless you get authorization.
Right, but you're just like, nah.
Well, to be honest, I went to get authorization, and when I went to my probation officer, she goes, "Oh, you filled out this section of the form wrong. You have to redo it." And I go, No. The U-Haul's outside. You told me to fill out this form. I filled it out to give to you, to give to the judge. I'm leaving. And she's like, no, you have to redo it. And I go, okay. And I left. So then fast forward 3 years later, they asked me for my license. I make this big hubbub about like, I'm the passenger. I don't need to give you my license because I know I have the warrant. Give them my license. This is now in Jacksonville, Florida. So it's like 4 hours north. They come out, guns drawn. Get out of the car. And dude, like it was terrifying. And so get arrested. I get transferred all the way back to South Florida. It takes 36 hours because you have to go in a van, like a van, and Hannibal Lecter style, like you're crammed into this van.
This is my worst nightmare.
So you have to stop in every county on your way to wherever you're going because they have to pick up and drop off prisoners. So a 4.5 hour drive from Jacksonville to South Florida actually took 36 hours. It was bad. But anyway, that's the long story. I was going to say long story short, but that's already the long story.
And when you explain that story to the judge,
I got in front of the judge and the probation officer representative for the Palm Beach County probation system, the representative there asked for 9 months.
Fucking hell.
And I was like, I had at this point, because I was transferred and I was waiting a couple days before I went in front of the judge. I had character witnesses from the guy who owned the halfway house, the 2 jobs I was working, both bosses, because I had actually put together some sobriety.
Yeah.
Like I had gone to rehab. I had like 6 months sober. Like I was really trying. So they had all these character witnesses and stuff. Best part about it, Tyler, I come out shackled at the hands, shackled at the ankles, sitting like where all the prisoners sit. I was pre-law. Guess who's across the courtroom? Working for the state prosecutor. All the people I was in pre-law society with.
Oh, no.
Because it's 3 years after I finished school.
Yeah.
So they went to law school for 3 years, and the first thing you do when you get out of law school is go work for the state.
They're like,
so you look across the courtroom, and it's... Yeah, literally, that's what happened, dude.
That's the guy whose apartment we used to drink at.
I walked out of the back because they walk all the prisoners out together, shackled, and I look over. I was like, holy shit, Michelle, what's up? Dude, it was the best. So then with all the character witnesses and stuff, they recommended to the judge I do almost no time. And so the judge met in the middle and said 3 months.
Thanks, Judge.
Yeah, so.
Fucking hell, dude.
Dude, it was bad. But yeah, so like I just wanted to tell you last thing. the fighting thing. So when you go to jail, like I said, you have to fight. Like you're kind of, and especially at that age, because between the age of like 25 and 30, like I'm not old enough to where people are like, oh, don't mess with him, he's old. But I'm also not young enough to where I'm gonna let anybody punk me.
Yeah.
And you can't, because then they'll just take your shit. Like stuff you don't even think about, like your toothpaste. They'll just take it because they can.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh.
But can I just have my toothpaste back, please?
Yeah, like come on, like. And so the last like bar brawl I was in, I was outside of this really shitty bar in Daytona, and my twin sister was talking to this guy, and I didn't like the cut of his jib, and he just keeps like trying to talk to her, and me and my twin sister are walking, and I'm kind of in between her and him, and I'm like, nah, man, it's cool, like just head out, like, and we're all wasted. He gets in his car, shuts the door. As he's rolling up his window, he goes, well, I don't know what's wrong with me, man. I'm a pretty nice guy, man. Fuck you. You know what? Fuck you, Frosted Flake, and rolls up the window. So I turn, and I go, I can't hear you. And I put my head through his window. Shattered it. So, yeah, you're not missing much from not being in fights.
That's like one of those stories of like, that sounds cool, but also like, that's not cool.
I don't know if you've ever gotten beamed in the face by a ball, but like if you've ever been knocked out standing up.
I've never been knocked out, no.
But like I hit it and I stood up and I was blacked out, but I was standing, but I was blacked out.
Yeah.
And then I kind of came to and I was like, well, that was a bad idea. And I tried to do the thing where you think like maybe if I act like a psycho, they won't want to fight me.
Yeah.
So I started punching myself in the face, being like, I'm the fucking thing you have nightmares about. Like, you don't want to fight me. Well, there's 3 of them. So they ended up just beating the piss out of me.
Fuck.
Yeah. And I was already blacked out from putting my head through the window. I'm going to have to edit all this out because people get mad when I tell too many stories about me.
What?
You know how it is.
I get
it. You guys have a different dynamic on the AD.
Yeah, we just tell it's the same 8 stories over and over again on our show. and I don't remember any of them, so they're new to me every single time, except for Mike in the cab in Las Vegas. That's that every time I'm like, no.
Where he got out?
No, Mike. Well, Brennan, thank you for having me. Thank you for indulging my not very exciting drunk stories.
No, this was fun, man. Plug everything one more time. The After Disaster, you are the president.
I am the president. I'm in my second term. Don't worry, we don't need to stop the steal. There's no audits happening. It was all above board. Yeah, I have a podcast that's $5 a month that I don't know what to tell you. If you want to, you can go to patreon.com/afterdisaster and give us $5 and check it out for a month. Or just don't. There's enough podcasts out there. Yeah, follow me on Twitter, Tyler Ruins TV. That's probably the best online version of me is Twitter. So if you it
is a good follow.
If you give a shit about anything that I've said, or if you just want to like get some updates on an Isuzu Amigo,
yeah, for sure,
I'm your guy.
Boom, right there. Thank you everybody so much for listening. Remember at Brennan T Comedy on all social media.
Actually,
BrennanTComedy.com.
Wait,
go ahead.
Can I plug something that has nothing to do with me, but is tangentially something to do with you?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so I have a friend that I played baseball with. We've talked about this. It sounds exactly like you. His name is Kurt.
Oh yeah,
Kurt
we have
Neal.
talked about this.
He's also a comedian, but he does more. He's more in the like making movies and stuff. He is raising money right now to make his next feature film. He made his first one, which is called Derek's Dead. It is on Amazon.
Saw the trailer for that. Love it.
It is very funny. It's a great watch. If you can find Derek's Dead online on any of the streaming sites, please watch it. It's very funny. He's also the best baseball player I've ever played with in the terms of we'd show up to a game and he'll be like, you know what? I'm going to hit 2 home runs today. And then he'll fucking do it. And like kids will come up and ask him to autograph baseballs. It's the
what?
It's incredible. It's whatever. So don't follow me online. Don't fuck with any of my shit. Kurt is raising money right now. Let me pull it up. Let me do this man a solid. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. It's WeFunder. He's making a rom-com called You Want to Go for a Drive. This is such a...
It sounds like it could be a rom-com or a horror movie.
Kurt, this is a yeah, well, it is kind of because they join a cult on their first... They go for a date. They join a cult.
Comics all thinking alike.
Just go to wefunder.com/you want to go for a drive new kind of rom-com. That's
Oh,
a
come
terrible
on.
URL. Kurt, you got it. I got to talk to Kurt about that.
I'll put it in the notes.
Okay,
I'll put it in the
you
show
put it in the notes. If you like Brennan, give my friend Kurt your money because they're kind of like the same. There, that's the weirdest plug that maybe anyone has ever done on a podcast. But
You do tell me I do sound just like him, and I've watched the trailer to that movie, and I do sound just like
you guys
him.
sound it's incredible. Yeah, it makes me happy. Sometimes I close my eyes and pretend I'm talking to Kurt when I talk to you, and it makes me feel
Awesome.
like
There
a
we
little bit better.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Remember, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. Check out BrennanTComedy.com. For those of you who are longtime listeners, you know I will be moving to New York City in July.
Oh, that's right. It's finally happening.
Yes, it is. So I do have a farewell to Florida tour all through June. I'm going to be in all over the state of Florida, saying goodbye, doing shows where I have friends, family, exes, you know, all sorts of
Will
people.
you be driving
come out.
yourself or having the police escort you in a van?
I'll be driving myself because I am 3 years sober this month, and I've got all my shit back together. I got
Hell
my license
yes.
cleaned up.
Hey, what's
Yeah,
on that board behind you?
That's actually a joke I've been working on about rehab.
Is that how you work on your jokes? On a big
Yeah, so
whiteboard?
Yeah, I think of a premise, and then I do the premise on stage. I record all my sets, and I'll do the premise on stage and voice record it, and then I'll listen back to it, and then I take it to the whiteboard and like write it out and kind of figure out where to go from there.
That is wild.
Yeah, so that one up there now I'm still working on, but it says rehab, best drinking buddy / party people you meet in rehab. That might sound negative, but statistically, almost everyone in there is going to relapse, and then that'll be the most fun you've ever had partying. Normal people will be like, Brennan, you can't start at 7:30 a.m. before work, but rehab friends are like, obviously, we're having shots for breakfast. How else do you start the day?
I love that you approach a craft that is stand-up comedy with the way that looks like someone is working on their like corporate
It's a job, man.
presentation, like PowerPoint. No, 100% is a job, and people don't respect what you do enough. And by you, I mean the collective.
Comedians in general, yeah.
I think people respect you probably the appropriate amount. But don't flex while I say that. That's weird.
People respect me as much as I goddamn tell them to.
I've been staring at that whiteboard the entire time we've been doing this. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to have my head up and then you bring it up on the show.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
It's not weird. It's literally just it's the promotion I do when we do it on Twitch.
I know. It's just
See?
it's weird. It's weird.
Oh, I guess it is weird. Now that you said it, I don't ever use it anymore. I use this one more than anything.
I'm sorry I did that to you. Well, thank you for having me, Brennan. Thank you for staying up late.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you again, everybody, for listening. We'll talk to you all next week.
Ciao.
All right.
Oh, I don't have to hang up. That's not how that works. Yeah, let me hit stop.